My name is Jim Pribbleii, alcoholic addict. Went from suicidal, homicidal, and full of fear and a lot of anger to finding hope. This is my story. Okay, I was born in Phoenix, Arizona in '79. My parents were two active alcoholic and drug addicts. So I didn't grow up a very normal life. Witnessed a lot of abuse. My mom constantly getting beat up, and occasionally from time to time she would give a beating. She was a full-blooded Apache Indian, and when she drank she became extremely violent, and she had a very rough life. My dad, he was a drug addict, heroin addict, and he just liked to get over off people. And so from the very start, a lot of cops, being over at the house, domestic violence. And during this time, domestic violence wasn't what it is today. So they would let my mom and dad go. I think somebody would probably have to leave, but nobody was getting arrested or anything like that. So what I seen was nobody was getting arrested, so there were no consequences. And occasionally my grandparents would have to intervene and come in. We would get left out in the Phoenix projects from time to time, and it's a miracle that nothing ever happened to me and my sister. My slightest memory of using drugs or drinking was probably when I was about 9. Me and my buddy used to like to skateboard, and we were constantly getting in and out of trouble. But the time that I could remember is that during those times we would be smoking weed or we'd be drinking, I think doing stuff with like normal kids do. But if I felt like I was seeking escape, everywhere I went, I never felt like I fit in. Anywhere I went, and I could be hanging out with all my friends, I just felt a void inside of me. And when I would do those things, those substances or those things, the void would be filled, but it would be temporary. So I think that's probably what I was yearning for. Then we got to a place about 9. I remember maybe a little older, and it was my 9th or 10th birthday, and my mom just got out of prison, and she wanted to celebrate and get us some wine coolers, and so started drinking with her and got extremely drunk. There was a pool back there, and I kept jumping in, but each time I kept hitting the bottom of the cement and scratching my face. I must have did this probably 3 or 4 times, but I kept hitting the bottom, and I kept thinking, why do I keep hitting the bottom? Why do I keep hitting the bottom? I felt normal, but I kept hitting the bottom. So then when I woke up, I was, my face is all scratched. And I say this because it's kind of interesting. I think that this is the trick that our mind plays on us when we're drinking. We're thinking that there are no consequences when we're doing it, but there are consequences. That time being, hitting the thing, hitting the concrete and getting a black eye or scraping my face, but I kept doing it over and over again, thinking that there was going to be a different result. And that's kind of like how my drug use and alcohol use has been throughout my life. When I was 12 or 13, I found my mom dead from alcohol poisoning, and I think that this is probably why, or maybe just genetically that I had it. But this is what I probably think, doing all the work, is I found her dead from alcohol. I had to roll her over, and the paramedics and everything, and her face and rigor mortis was smashed flat. And so these thoughts crowd my mind, and they haunt me, because at that time I was getting really close with my mom, but she was always in and out of prison, and she really wasn't there. But I know she loved me, and she was battling her own demons. But when she was there laying against the wall, I thought that she was going to get up and say, Jim, what's going on? Why are you crying? Everything will be all right. And maybe that's what I've been looking for my whole life. And there has been no avail of that in recent time, yes, but maybe that's what I was looking for. So I was in denial with her laying there because I didn't want to believe that she's passed away or she's gone. You go through grieving stages, and especially being this young, I think I wasn't able to process the emotions, and I didn't have the skills to process that. So then when my mom died, we were going up to, she was having her funeral in New Mexico. Our house burnt down. And so now we have, my mom's dead, our house burns down, and then I go and live with my father, and we're getting close, but he's having me engage in activities that are probably not so suitable. He's teaching me how to rob, steal, and cheat people. And I could go like on the back, and I could go steal things and show him, and he would, and smoke weed with me, and he was teaching me all about the game. And so me and my buddy, we went out and we were stealing guns from his grandfather or whatever. And so we took these guns and then we sold them to my dad. Well, we got busted for it at school. They wanted to know where the guns were. And so I told them, I'll go get the gun, but whatever, you'll be in trouble. So I went and talked to my dad and got the gun back. But then he got popped on a robbery, two accounts of armed robbery, where he got a life sentence. And so he gets taken away. So then so my grandparents intervene, and the Apache Nation is coming in to intervene, and they want to take custody of me and my sister. So my grandparents were the ones that basically raised us, so we went with them. And so I share this piece of information because my mom's drinking during that time when she got out of prison. She did like a 4-year bid for my father. She didn't snitch on him or anything. And so when she got out, he had remarried, and I watched her drinking get out of control. They say in the book that resentment is the #1 offenders. It destroys more alcoholics than anything, and I think that's what took my mother's life. She's very resentful, and during that time they tried to get together, but me and my sister were like, it's not going to work. And I noticed that her alcoholism kind of went really, really awry during that time. So then my dad goes away, and I start experimenting with drugs, weed, and everything, because I just don't think I had the emotions to deal with that. And when you're doing math or whatever, it completely knocks those emotions out. So you're emotionless. So that was good, and I think that's just what my coping mechanism was. But this is going to be a constant thing throughout my whole life. It's going to be this fear of abandonment, because I feel, and during that time I had this huge resentment towards God, because he took the closest thing, he took my parents from me. That's just what I thought. So as I go through this thing, I'm trying to go to school, but I don't know how you can take a kid who just found his mom dead and his dad went to prison and put him into a learning level to learn school and all this. I just couldn't get it. I had a lot of fear. Maybe it was fear, but a lot of anger. I was really angry, and I wanted to fight anybody and everything. So that's just what I was. When I go to school, I couldn't sit there very long, and then I'd get into a fight, and then I'd just, get kicked out or whatever. And so I just kept getting kicked out, booted here, booted there, and eventually just dropped out of high school. And this is about 18, got with this girl, and she was going to change everything because she was my higher power. So I put all my eggs in one basket, and that doesn't work, because human beings are going to fail you. And so I'm introducing her to meth and into the drinking and stuff, and her parents get me away. And then I come out to Wichita. This is probably when I'm like 20, 19. I come out here to go be with this girl, and I got some money from my mom, and I got a truck. So I was going to come out here and be like, do the adult thing. And so I came out here, and about a week later, got into an incident up in St. Louis, where I did a beer run, and got popped on the beer run. So the girl knew the guy. She was good friends with the family, and so he called her family, and she wanted me to go clean that up, which I'm the one who stole the alcohol, so I said, I'll go clean it up. And the cops were waiting there for me, so they arrested me. That was a $300 fine. And then I said, well, my money's in my wallet, and it's in the front seat. So when they searched the vehicle, they found meth in there, and that was another $300 fine. So out of the $1,000 I take to go up there, I'm like $400 short. So I come back here, devise a plan or whatever, and then about a couple weeks later, I go up there and kidnap her and bring her back to Las Vegas. Well, her family finds out, and that she doesn't want. The deal was, if she was going to go with me, then they were going to disown her. And he was pretty high up there with Walmart, and they had a lot of money, and she chose the family. So I felt like any girl that I ever been with didn't love me unconditionally. And I mean, are they supposed to? I don't know, but maybe somewhere in there's probably a false belief. But they didn't love me like my mom loved me. Maybe that's what I was looking for. So eventually this relationship is going on and on and on, and finally we kind of part ways. And I meet another girl at this restaurant, which I went to school with. And it was so dysfunctional. We liked to drink and everything, but she was batshit crazy. And for some reason, she was just like my mom. So I really latched onto her, and end up having a baby with her, and thinking that would change things. It didn't. I think I would. Yeah. So my daughter was about 2 days old, and me and my buddy went and dropped a bunch of this LSD on the strip, and I got beat up and left for dead. I was put into ICU with face smashed flat, and they were threatening to take my eye out and stuff. And so from that day, I vowed to never drink and never do drugs again, and that lasted for about a year. And it does say that in the big book, that if you can go a year on white knuckling sobriety, you won't last. And that's true, because there were other substances coming. I wasn't completely sober. So I get out, do that, have a daughter, things are going good. And she's about 2 years old at this time, and I'm doing really well, and at least I think I am. And I wanted to go drive truck because I wasn't making enough money, and so I went out onto the road to get a CDL, and I'm boarding on I'm going to come home because the training facility was in Reno, so I'm coming home, and she accuses me of molesting my daughter, and that just really destroyed me. I mean, it just shattered my whole reality. And so I got on the plane, I came to Vegas, and went right to a bar and started drinking. And I wasn't drinking, I was drinking pitchers, and I was going hard. And I think that night again, I get beat up again from somebody who's out there talking crap and getting beat up. And so this went on with her, and I remember getting in the car and driving, and my cousin was supposed to get in this car, but it's like the windshield shattered, and I'm telling him, get in the car, get in the front seat, but I'm intoxicated, and he didn't want to get in, so I took off, and then I went over here to my other buddy, and I was telling him to get in. I'm doing donuts out in the thing, and he doesn't want to get in because I've had too much to drink. I went out and got into an accident and crashed the engine went in the back seat. And maybe during this time, I don't know, I want to say I had an out-of-body experience, because when I read the discovery, none of this stuff happens. I remember getting out of the vehicle and looking up at the sky and saying, talking to somebody and said, well, what about my daughter? And then I woke up into the county. Well, when my uncle looked at the car and everything, he said the engine went in the back seat, so he'd understand how I walked out of that one alive. So it was 2 DUIs within 2 weeks. Then, they were trying to get me help, and, and I would go to AA and stuff, but I just didn't understand the spiritual aspect of it. And I didn't have enough knowledge because I know a lot of things, and when I know everything, then it's hard for anything new to come in. So maybe that's probably why I couldn't get the help. So car crash, jail, and still drinking. And then my other son comes along, and it's still dysfunctional. And, just in and out of trouble. And so I'd get pieces of sobriety, but nothing long. Would be within a year. And then I decided that I was going to leave Natalie and go be with some other girl. And I'd made that decision. I asked my baby's mom if she was going to go get help for the accusation she was accusing me of, and she said she didn't owe me a thing. So I decided at that time I was going to leave. And I think what I did was I just left that family and kind of just started a new one, because she was making it extremely difficult for me to be a father in there. But I didn't have any of this stuff, so it's kind of hard to say that if I would have had this then probably things could probably work out. I think that no matter what kind of situation you're going through, you can only take 12 steps to get out. So I go into I meet this other girl. She's supposed to change my life, and I'm struggling. I'm eating a lot of pills at this time. I'm not really drinking, and I'm smoking weed. And so, the pill thing was, I had this doctor where you could get a huge amount of prescription pills, and you could eat like 30 pills a day and still be good for every 3 months. Well, the doctor, he ends up getting busted, and so I go to get a refill, and they're saying he's been turned into about a department or whatever they did, so he can no longer fill prescription. And so at that time, and this is probably when I get introduced to AA, my first time, I meet a guy that I was working with at work, and I was talking about going to rehab, and there's a nightclub rehab, so he was totally misunderstanding what I was talking about. I'm talking about going to this nightclub. So he pulls me into his car and he says, Jim, you don't need rehab, you need AA. And I'll be your sponsor and I'll help you out and we'll work the steps and everything. And, I just want to say, for selfish reasons, I jumped on the offer. I didn't really have it in my heart to want to get clean or sober. So when I was going through when the doctor got popped, I just gave him all my pills. I gave him all my money, and I just told him that I'm done. And he called me back about, I don't know, a couple hours later and said, you just can't detox off of these things. So it probably puts you into a seizure. You might want to get medical help. So I went against what he said, and I just tried to cold turkey. I tried to cold turkey everything, and I've done fairly well doing that, but I wouldn't advise it. It set me into mind and body things, convulsings, stuff like that. I was extremely sick. I couldn't get right, couldn't work. And I'm trying to work these steps, and I have the slightest idea. Well, I wasn't really working them. I was just bullshitting my way through. So everything was just a con. I wasn't doing anything that he described. So in about 6 months, I got a job offer. It was this big job in City Center for the union. And you got to just go take a drug test and pass the drug test, and everything will be cool. And went in there and failed the UA. And so now they want me to go to drug treatment and all that stuff. So I stopped doing the work with my sponsor. He drops me, and 6 months later I relapsed it was January 1st. And so they want me to go to drug treatment and rehab and all that stuff. And I just didn't do any of it. And then I think, oh yeah, that's what happened. I get out, well, then I'm with Kalinda for a while, and then I got involved in this road rage shooting on the 95, and I ended up shooting a person and left the scene of an accident, and news, it was all over the news and everything, and I got away, and then they were looking for me, and SWAT came and got me. So I went to prison and did 3 years for assault with a deadly weapon, battery with substantial harm, and battery with deadly weapon, and assault with a deadly weapon, and obliviated serial number. And so I had to go to prison for that, first time ever being in real trouble, and had to go to prison. And went and got into this treatment facility and everything up there. So when I got out of prison, I thought everything was going to be good. I'd vowed to, do this like I did many, many, many times. Really didn't think about doing the program, and I'd managed to stay straight and sober in prison, but it's white knuckled sobriety. I mean, I still was restless, irritable, and discontent. And so I got out. Vegas at that time, this is right after 2008, 2011, so it really hadn't bounced back since the economy crashed. And so I'm working these, low paying jobs, and child support's taking like half of the money. So my $7 an hour is like $303.50 an hour. And I'm riding like 20 miles on a bike. I mean, I was extremely motivated, and I got into training and everything. And then, it was like all this wreckage. It just seemed overwhelming. And my buddy that I worked iron with, I see him in the gym, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, you come out to Texas and work?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I went out there, and it changed my life. I mean, Texas just had a lot of work. You could work a long overtime, and we started to have a nice life. We had things and everything like that, but still was just untreated. And I was sober for about 8 years. And my son came out there, he lived with us, and I never raised him or anything. So there were a lot of blessings that came in that. And then one day, the thought came where I had gotten a bunch of these Adderall pills, and I was just holding on to them. And I convinced my wife, "Hey, listen, I can do Adderall. I gotta, the doctor says I have the ADHD or whatever. They have you take a test." And so I was prescribing myself Adderall, and so that looped into eventually into a relapse, and that relapse there probably caused more damage in that 2 years than anything that I've ever done, where it brought me to a place where I was homicidal, suicidal, and completely out of my mind. So I tried to kill myself June 15th, 2019, and woke up in the hospital, and the cops gave me a choice. They said, "You can go with us, but you got a warrant to where you want to go." And so I went with them, and I went into this hospital, and at that time I said, "I'm going to really work the steps this time. I'm going to get a sponsor, and I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to really do it." And I was resistant, in the beginning. Probably not as resistant as it was in the beginning, but I was still resistant. And it took me about, 2 years. 2 years, and one day I sat on the edge of my bed, and I was just dissatisfied with my sobriety. And I thought, man, if this is all that sobriety has to offer, I was just, I was just not happy where I was at, not happy with who I was, not happy with the things I had. And so I asked myself, I don't know, maybe this was an intuitive thing coming from a higher place, but it said, what are you doing? There's 277 hours in a week, and I was only going to one meeting a week. So that's 1 hour so I have 276 hours. I watched this show where these people are these Olympic gymnasts. They dedicate 40 hours to 45 hours of their time, and that was to become an Olympic medalist. But some of them don't become Olympic medalists or gold medalists or whatever. They just can go to the Olympics. But I thought, if I applied that into my sobriety, I wonder what would happen. So then from that day, I kind of wasn't as resistant. I got into a step workshop, started working the steps where I could be into a place where I could do the work for 2 hours. They have one over at this place for 2 hours on Sundays, and I've been doing that for the last 4 years consistently. I don't think I've missed a step workshop. But in that 2 years, it was my 2-year mark. That's when I really started to cling hold of this thing, and that's when my life really started to change, doing the step work. What I realized is that I'm selfish in a lot of ways, and the way that I think is selfish, and I have to abandon those thoughts. And when I do abandon those thoughts, that I can experience God on a whole another level. I also found God into AA. It broke past the ego enough to where I could find God. And once I started doing that, I kept seeking. Now, has my life been perfect? By any means, no. I had to go through trials and tribulations, but I think that's what we are here to do on our journey, is to walk through the fear courageously. The only difference before is that I'm not going to do it self-will, meaning my self-will is very limited. It's not going to have the depth and weight as a higher power is going to have. So when I allow a higher power to come into my life, it changes things because it has a higher level of understanding and knowledge. And I have to trust and go through the process. So when you remove drugs and alcohol from the equation, I'm stuck with me. And this is the part of the problem: selfish, self-centered. So once I take this problem to the higher power, then I can be relieved of that, whatever it looks. But I got to be willing to walk through the stuff. So it's like there's a fire in front of me. It looks scary. It's scary, but I just got to take one step. And each time I take a step, I get through it. Am I going to get burnt a little bit? Is it going to be hot? Yeah. But that's where I'm going to be challenged, and that's where I'm going to grow and develop into what God wants me to be. So as I keep going, so I got experienced a whole lot of fear, and I had to do a whole lot of inventories and stuff through this process. I'd lost my job. My severe arthritis was so bad that I had to leave out of state, and I'm pulling on this bar, and I can't pull no more, and I just, God's just like, dude, you're going to go spend time with your daughter. She needs you. You need to be there, and you need to rely on me more. And so I started doing a step 2 fear inventory, to where I can look at 7 areas of my life where I play God, and I play God in a lot of areas of my life, and I'm not willing to give some of these areas up. And until I do, then I can receive peace and serenity in my life, and they're really proportionate to my expectations and demands. I think a whole lot of the things of where I was going through life was I was expecting and I was demanding. And when I didn't get what I wanted, that's when this fear thing would crop up, and drinking and drugging was the solution. Well, it was until it stopped working. So I get 24 hours in a day to maintain my spiritual condition. And in that 24-hour span, I'm a watchman, watching for selfishness, dishonesty, and if they crop up, I have a discretion to do, I have some action to take if they do. Well, 1, I got to write it out. 2, I got to discuss it with somebody and talk to somebody about it, and then resolutely turn my thoughts to somebody I can help. And then love and tolerance of others is our code. And then there are some promises that come from that for the byproduct of when that's happening, so I can kind of measure in my day-to-day of what that looks like. You know, I react sanely and normally. And then there's 7 areas of life that I'm looking at, you know, my careers, my finances, my jobs, my hobbies, my sex life, my spiritual life, my relationships. You know, I have a lot of sane and normalcy in there. If I don't, then probably the chances are is I got hold of that, and I gotta be willing to surrender that. And however much I'm willing to surrender me, then I can experience God on higher levels of consciousness. So this has been a thing now for the last couple of years. Prayer and meditation, I can't top on that enough. Prayer and meditation, there's a lot of things that can, I'll just say this without really going further into detail about it. There are things that are unseen. You cannot see hormones. Well, when you're in meditation, it secretes a hormone called melatonin, which are very calming, good hormones that get secreted through the body, also melatonin. And also you can be able to control your mind. So when your mind drifts off, you can control it back. I mean, that's the whole point of the exercise, is you're just bringing your thoughts. So when you get to a point in your sobriety that you realize you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you can be the watcher of them. And you watch what they're doing and what they're saying. You don't have to interact with them. And I think that selfing part, or lower self, or the devil, or whatever you want to call it, the adversary, whatever you want to call it, it's my natural nature to have these unlimited wants and desires. Females, money, jobs, expensive things, worldly clamors, those type of deals. But those things never brought me happiness, or they never filled the void inside of me that when I have this experience of helping others. When I go and help others, or when I do that, then I get catapulted into what I like to call the 4th dimension of existence. Then my problems immediately dissipate, because I'm no longer worried about me and what I got to do. I just be of service, and that's what it tells me in the big book, page 77, is my primary purpose in this deal is to be of maximum service. Well, how do I fit myself to be of maximum service? I have to get rid of my selfish element. I have to get rid of these dishonesty walls that are binded up that I've created. And that's what this whole process has got me to do, is tear down everything. And when I tear down everything, then I can experience God. I can connect to God. And what I realize is God is in everything and everybody. When I'm selfish, I'm separated from everything and everybody. So there's a corresponding difference there. And when I know, so I don't get off track, I get a daily reprieve, and then I just help others. And, you know, if anybody else out there needs help, you know, that's what I'm doing. I was homicidal, suicidal, and full of fear. Today I'm no longer any of those. Well, not very long. I don't stay them in as long. And then I have a course of action to take if I do. So if anybody out there resonates with this story in any way, shape, or form, I was very resistant when I came to AA. I didn't know how it was going to help me, but it was the greatest gift that God ever gave me, because I found God, and now I'm able to help others. Thank you for letting me share.